Let's talk a little bit about the San Francisco 49ers. Where do you start this offseason? How do you improve this team?
Got to get rid of Jake Moody, and that's going to be on the priorities list. Get better kicking, address the special teams, the issues that you had. Offensive line, I said it before, you're going to have to draft offensive linemen early and often. And do you draft them with a top 10 pick? It looks like San Francisco may be in line for the 10th, 11th pick. Do you draft an offensive lineman there? Or do you trade back and try to get multiple of them? But that needs to be your focus. You need to draft well. You need to get back to drafting pass rushers. The guys, we talked about Hargrave, who got injured very early in the season, is a lot of money. He cost a lot of money and did not get to have an impact this season. Didn't have a great impact last season. But do you bring him back? Do you renegotiate that deal? Or is he a cap casualty? I don't know. You need depth. Depth is where you need to continue to go. You got receivers, you're paying receivers. What do you do with Deebo Samuel? I think you keep him. But you need depth at the running back position. You need, again, you cannot have enough offensive linemen. Trent Williams hopefully comes back fully healthy, and you can use the experience that the offensive line got in this time where he's been away. But I think a new center, a new right tackle, or at least competition, at least if you're going to, I don't think you draft the first round center, but the first round centers that have gotten drafted have done very well. If that's the direction you want to go, then go in that direction and believe in that and go with that, because that's what's going to have to change. Like you just saw tonight, this is still a team that can compete with anybody. But defensively, somebody else has to get to the quarterback other than Nicholas John Bosa. You need somebody else to win. You need individuals that can win from the D tackle spot. Do you bring DeForest Buckner back? I would do my best to try to bring him back home. And because him and Nicholas John Bosa would create havoc. See what Eric Armstead is doing out there in Jacksonville. Do they keep him? Is he a cap casualty out there? You call the old guard. And I know fans are sitting there like, man, I need something else. I hear you, but this is what works. These are guys that work in this system. These are guys that work with this organization. These are guys that have shown you on tape that it works within this scheme, and I think it would do well. Or you find guys comparable, but you got to address the O-line, D-line. You want to be a championship team? That's where championship teams are built, and that's where they got to focus, and I think they will.
One team that is not part of this playoff discussion is the Seattle Seahawks. Unfortunately, they've been eliminated from playoff contention. This is a huge offseason for them, Richard. They got a lot of questions that are in front of them, starting with Geno Smith. How do you think they handle the Geno Smith situation? Do you extend him? Should they extend him? Where's your head at with Geno Smith?
I don't know what they'll do. It seems like the coaching staff loves him. He doesn't have a high cap number right now. You have enough money to be able to go out there and put some talented offensive linemen in front of them, whether it's through the draft or free agency. They can do a number of things. They can extend him, or they can increase the money that he's making next season just to appease him and to kind of band-aid it going into the next season and hope that, they can get another, let's see year out of him. And if he plays well, then you extend him for a certain amount of money mid-season, or you don't. I don't think you get rid of him. I think he at least plays out this contract. Maybe they wait and see, give him a little bit of a bone this offseason, which would make some of the incentives or something guaranteed, something like that, where it would make sense, where it's like, hey, we're not going to make you chase incentives and do all that this season. We're going to give you these, maybe put some voidable years over it to make sure the contract is what it needs to be and it's not crippling them in any way. But I don't know if they're in the mood to extend anybody at this point in time, but they're also not going to be in a position to draft high enough to quote unquote draft a franchise quarterback. So unless you get lucky and get a late round guy who's just a menace, and can play the game at a high level, I think you continue with Geno, and that's the best case scenario. And I know fans are sitting there like, get rid of Geno, but again, you can do a lot worse than Geno, and sometimes you need to see that. And I don't want to see it. I don't want to see them do worse than Geno. I don't want to see Geno with a good offensive line, some time to pass the football, and win some games.
There's been a little bit of buzz developing around the possibility of DK Metcalf getting traded this offseason as well. Do you think it's time for a new space for DK Metcalf, or do you think that they can get this back on track here in Seattle?
It depends. Where would he go? What makes sense? Again, he's only played in Seattle, and he's done a good job. But maybe everything runs its course. So I'm sure the discussions will be out there, and if something makes sense for John Snyder and the Seattle Seahawks to make a move where they get a very high draft compensation, I don't think they'd take anything less than a second rounder or so for maybe second and third for DK, and him getting a home with a quarterback that is a good quarterback. You don't want to leave a quarterback that's productive for a young quarterback or a quarterback you don't know, but I'm trying to think of places I think he could go and really thrive. I mean, he could thrive in any system, but there aren't a lot of teams that are in need of a wide receiver that have an elite quarterback getting the job done right now. And I think that's going to be the issue he'll run into. Do you want to go chase the money and be on a team with a quarterback that you're unsure about? Or do you stay home and go with what you know and just try to tough this out and maybe see the other side of this team and see if they can be better in year two with Mike McDonald and the staff and Ryan Grubb, offensive coordinator in another year and more experience under the belt. So I don't think they trade him, but I've been wrong before.